if I'm in education, it's important enough that the president or the prime minister is actually coming. So that to me was super interesting, super exciting. I think now that the Indian stock market is growing so much faster, now people are going to start thinking about investing in more alternative instruments than just, fixed deposits. Can we make personal finance compulsory subject in school, maybe starting grade 4, grade 5, as soon as you understand math?
I think it's just a matter of time when this becomes... CBSE, in fact, says that financial literacy is something that you have to introduce, but it's optional.
यार तू कितना कमाता है? कितना कमाता है?
Hey guys, welcome to this episode. I have someone super interesting here, Pratham Mittal.
Thanks for having me.
Pratham, we have a bunch of people behind the camera. They don't know you. How about you tell them who you are?
Sure. So I started my career in SaaS. So I built a software company in the US called Outgrow. Yeah. And we make marketing software for large publishers. So when you go to a NewYorkTimes.com or a WallStreetJournal.com, more often than not, you're actually using our products. Did that for almost a decade. And then decided to move back to India. Honestly, was just missing my parents. Yeah. And as I moved back to India and thought about what to do next, education just seemed to be the obvious next step for me. And we'll talk more about why that's
the case. Why obvious, but okay.
My parents have been educators for the last 2 decades, right? And so I've grown up, them talking about education and the markets in India. So I decided to start up in education.
What did they do?
So they co-founded a university called Lovely Professional University.
Of course, we've heard of that.
Yeah. So it's one of those traditional large campuses, that
600 acres.
Yeah, you might have seen on TV ads, etc.
Yes.
So I decided to get into education as well, and started a business school called the Masters Union. It's an alternative business school. And we have been having a lot of fun with it for the last few years.
Yes.
And super excited to see where we can take it from here.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I remember us on a call 2.5 years ago, and you were telling me about this idea, I think it was back then, Masters Union. You said, come to my home, I'll tell you about it. I'm like, this is very similar to what we're doing, but we're digital. And he's like, no, but I'm not digital. I'm not only digital, is what you said. And seeing Masters Union now is just fantastic. But I start every episode with this one question. Your father and mother started LPU, right? You started Masters Union, and I know the other things that you're building ahead. So clearly, you know where you're head at, you know where to go. But one question, यार कितना कमाता है तू पैसे? पैसे कितना कमाता है तू as an individual?
So when you start up, there's like a startup founder salary that you have to make, right?
Right.
Which is usually across all of our companies. I think 24 lakhs a year, so 2 lakhs a month.
And that's what you make right now as well?
That's salary, but of course, your real wealth gets created with the company that you build.
Right. We mean the equity.
The equity.
Interesting. Oh, so you actually gave me the number. I thought you'd give me some vague answer.
It's standard. I mean, everyone knows it in the company.
No, super. I also know you own only a few t-shirts, same shoes. I've been seeing you for a long time. I guess you're just focusing more on work and none of these other things, right? Even that watch is someone from the studio gave it to Pratham.
It doesn't actually work.
Don't do it. No, so got it. Okay, interesting. Okay, so look, I've seen a bunch of interviews you've done, okay, and I've known you for a while, but I just wanted to ask you this, okay? So LPU, I think one of the first universities in the country, right?
First private.
First private university in the country, okay. 600 acres, I think 30,000 kids, and I think 1.2 lakh distance learning kids, as far as I know. Something like that, which is huge, right? Students will pay lakhs of rupees. Now, if you just do the math, even if I had to estimate, this is a tremendous amount of money coming into the trust, into the education unit. And you were born into this. I know you were slightly older once LPU started, but that's a lot of money, right? Or influence, I'll put it like that. So what did you think of that as a child to have so much influence on something like LPU? What is your relationship with money then? क्या पैसे के बारे में क्या सोचते थे?
Yeah, so actually, I've been asked this question, but I'll be extremely honest here, right? So my parents or my dad and his family, his brothers, etc., they started from a small sweet shop, right? Which we run till today, right? And they've literally grown out of poverty in the last 25 years, I would say, right? So essentially, even when I was born, my parents were still working very hard and growing the business, right? from a very small level. So in that sense, and even when the university got founded, right? University is a trust, right? You're doing it for the trust. So whatever money the university makes has to be redeployed into the university.
Got it.
Nothing can be taken out by any individual.
They just take salaries.
Yeah, we all just take salaries, right? So for the duration of my life, my parents have always been salaried, right? It's not that they held shares of a company that they can sell and make wealth out of it.
That can never happen.
That can never happen, right?
Okay. But so, there's influence.
Influence. Now, influence is a very interesting form of equity, right? But of course, I as a kid never enjoyed that. My parents must have. But that circle of influence also only extends within the university, right? Within the curriculum that you
Didn't you
design.
have heads of state coming home for dinner? Like, give me a story. ऐसा कुछ हुआ कि Shah Rukh Khan came, or चलो head of state Shah Rukh Khan नहीं, but someone influential, and you're just a kid and you're walking around and like, sup Shah Rukh?
that did happen. So in 2008-9, we hit almost 25,000 students.
How old were you then?
I was 20.
Okay, ठीक है.
Right? And, of course, LPU would host convocation ceremonies, right? And in one of the earlier convocation ceremonies, we actually had the president of the country. At that time, I think it was Pratham Mittal in 11, 12. And he used to come to campus. And he came this one time. And then I was just like looking up on the stage and my parents were there. And, he himself, the president of India, was there. I didn't get to have tea or coffee with him separately, if you were thinking that there'll be some masala like that. But I think what I realized is that education is something that attracts even the president of country to come to you, right? Even if I had a multi-billion-dollar startup.
It would not have happened.
Right? The president of India would not walk to my home.
For sure.
Right? Or the prime minister of the country would not walk to my home. But if I'm in education, it's important enough that the president or the prime minister is actually coming. So that to me was super interesting, super exciting. On the other side, because we had a lot of youth in the campus, almost 35,000 youth in the campus at any one point in time, any Bollywood movie that would get created.
Oh man.
The main actor, the main actress, they would always come down and they would perform in front of the students.
So you met everyone.
So as a function of that, I have met Akshay Kumar and like Shah Rukh Khan and all of these people. And what has always sort of taken me aback is their humility, right? On stage, they have to sort of have this persona, but in private, they are like the most humble people and they ask you questions. Acha Pratham, what do you do? And like, how do you do this? And like, how was your childhood?
Do they come home for dinner or for lunch before the event? Like, what happens backstage? Like, does the moments happen, or just meet them in the green room and they're off?
Yeah, no, I think we mostly meet them in the green room. We keep it professional, so we never really call them home. But, when you're having lunch or tea before or after the event, that's when you sort of try and get up close with them. But you realize that they are just normal people who are trying to have a conversation in their daily lives, right? And they also don't want to be treated like...
Starstruckish.
Yeah, exactly. So I remember this one time, I forget who this was. I think it was Arun Jaitley ji or somebody who had come, and it was tea happening. And then, he said this one thing which has really stuck with me. He said, if you treat someone like a celebrity, they will treat you like a fan.
Yeah, it's so true. Because you've established relationships, and you're never becoming, you're celebrity zoned.
Yeah, exactly.
Fan zoned.
You're fan zoned. So once you're fan zoned, you can't have a conversation.
Yeah.
You can only sign an autograph.
That's beautiful. So tell me, what do you think of influence versus money? Okay, I'll tell you the base, okay? Most people think कि पैसा आ गया, सब कुछ हो गया. Whatever little money I made, I realized this very quickly that if you have money, it doesn't get things done, right? I think social currency and influence is far more important. And that's where actually people want to go. They just don't know it until they probably have a little bit of money. But you had access to a lot, and I think your business is also doing extremely well. So what do you think of status or influence, not status, influence versus just money? Do you think influence is more important? And I use influence in a positive way. I don't mean it to get some work done that someone else can't. I mean it that you're able to access brighter minds, you're able to get things done, get opinions on things other people are not privy to. What do you think of it when you were 20? And what do you think of it now?
Interesting. So I think it's different for different people. First, I'll talk about myself as well, but I'll just caveat it by saying that I think it's different for different people. Some people, I think, can do more with influence or want influence, so they can do more with that. And some people are in pursuit of money, and influence is something they don't know that they're pursuing, right? So let's come back to that. For me, I think in the beginning, when I started off my career, it was about money, right? Can I earn X, Y, Z, and can I beat somebody else that I'm competing with, right? And to be very honest, like in the early stages of my career, I thought I was competing with my dad. Right? He had reached a certain stage, and I said, he did that without, an Ivy League education. I have one. Can I go beyond that? Right? So in the beginning, it was all about money as a scorecard, right? Because I think for daily sustenance and for a happy life, I think all I need is maybe a lakh and a half a month.
Got it.
Right? I can live in a very nice house. I can travel whenever I want. I get my 2 breaks in a year. I think that's what I need to lead a happy life. I realized that much later. Influence on the other side is an interesting thing, right? And let's call influence and power like the same thing, right? Okay.
Cool.
So when I was in SaaS, right, when I was running a SaaS Outgrow,
Yeah.
I never really had any influence.
Got it.
Right? I'm running a SaaS company. I have customers. I have to listen to them. Whenever they want something, I have to like make it for them, right? And so they have influence over me.
Yeah.
Right? But as soon as sort of I got into education and started building Masters Union, right? Now there are students who I have a lot of influence on, right? And now whatever you've learned, there are people who actually want to listen to you, right? And we are doing this conversation because there are probably some people who want to listen to you and I speak, right?
Sure.
So I think that influence is a very interesting thing, and that transcends money. Money will, I think, beyond a point stop mattering, but influence is something the more the better. Also, I would say that like there's a certain purity to influence, right? If you don't use it for the wrong things, and if you don't use it to make more money, right? Then you can do a lot of good in the world with influence, which perhaps you can do with money as well. But influence is more pure, I feel.
I think Google says this, right? Don't be evil. And I think they're not talking about money. They're talking about the influence or power they have online. And I guess all these regulations happening with Facebook and all these tech companies, because they're no longer just products. They are actually affecting the way you think. Which is interesting because universities together as an organization, as an industry, can actually literally mold the next few decades of a country.
They have a lot of influence.
They have a lot of influence. And you can't put a number to that, right?
Yeah.
So I think LearnApp is like the digital version of that. So got your answer.
No, but just to add to that, I think what you have established is actually, it makes a lot of sense. Now, if you look at America, right? I think America was built along the lines of universities. Harvard, Wharton, Stanford, right? Even cities got created around those universities.
Yep.
And so those universities really described, where the investment is going. Is it going into chemicals? Is it going into this? Because whatever research they would do
would be pushed out into the patents. I think the Bell Labs ka patents is part of that story. And that's the industries that were actually created.
History of a country is actually written in universities.
Yeah, and actually the mental power, right? I think it's, not now, but designed in California, built in China.
Says everything.
Says everything. So who has influence, power, branding, thinking power? I guess it goes to those universities, I guess, right? But chalo, Make in India may change some of that. I have one question, okay? So when I started my entrepreneurial journey, right, we did not have crazy backing. We just had a lot of balls just to do it, right? And there was no crazy backing of money. Like if we failed, we failed. The good thing was in my life, Pratham, we've not talked about this. My family did really well money-wise. And then for some reason, it just went literally to zero, like 8,000 a month salary. And then I think that's tragedy. And this happened multiple times. I think what happened with that is, since we hit rock bottom a few times, back then it was not so dramatic. It was just ki haan ho gaya. Who can just get me a ball? I want to go out and play. And the rock bottom was defined. And as I grew up, I said the worst case scenario here is I'll still be able to live. So I was not scared anymore. So safety net ki shayad zarurat nahi thi, dar bhi nahi lagta tha. For you, I'll put it crudely, correct me if I'm wrong, okay? You started Masters Union. If it did not do well, because it was a huge thing, right? You have a huge campus, you're trying to change education, get these amazing people here. Let's suppose it failed. You did have a safety net, right? Like dad was there, things would have happened. You did it on your own. I know the entire story, but doesn't that change how you look at risk if you have a safety net behind you? What's your take on that?
So I think when I did my first startup, Outgrow, I did not have a safety net because I was doing the US alone, right? And my family wanted me to come back. And I said, no, I have to build this software company in the US. So
you had already graduated?
I was still in college actually. I was in third or fourth year of college. So I think like you should know yourself, right? If I know that, first of all, you have to have confidence in what you're doing. If you think that main kar lunga, right? थोड़ा मुश्किल होगा. I might fail a couple of times, but I still get it done.
तो plan B है नहीं कुछ.
हाँ, plan B नहीं होना चाहिए मुझे लगता है.
हाँ.
But even plan A यदि हो जाएगा. So if you know yourself and if you have that confidence in yourself, then वो आपको risk लगेगा नहीं. That's number one. Number two is that you should also know your needs, right? So I knew my needs and I knew यार कि यार even if it doesn't work out for 3, 4, 5 years,
meet हो जाएगा.
तो मेरा bare minimum तो होता रहेगा यार meet. And as I said, like I think in a lakh and a half a month, I can live a very good life, and that much I had, very honestly, right? So if that is covered, for me, there is no risk that I'm taking, to be honest.
This reminds me, you keep saying lakh and a half. Do you have any EMIs? Do you pay any? Is there a credit card bill or a car bill? Is there an EMI that you pay every month?
No, so I live asset light. I don't
Really?
Yeah, so I don't own a house. I don't own a car.
Are you hearing that, guys?
Yeah. And I think like that's a very liberating way to live. And I did the analysis, right? Because if you do the cash flow analysis, you'll figure out that renting in India is actually cheaper than buying a house. And leasing a car is actually cheaper than buying a car. So I just do that. And because of that, I do have expenses, but not EMIs.
Oh, that's beautiful. So there's no credit card bill. That's the asset, jo asset pay.
I'm not paying off for an asset. In work, I am.
Sure.
My company is, but not personally.
Who does your taxes?
TurboTax.
Okay, all outsourced. Other thing I want to talk about, let me think on how to put it, okay? So what do you think about skills over degrees? I think this is right both up our alley. Your perspective is interesting. Your context is interesting because you actually do give degrees at LPU. That's a different entity. Masters Union does not give degrees, but it gives skills. And you've reinvented it in a way where you have these masters teaching. LearnApp does something similar. We don't give a job outcome, at least yet. But you have people from finance world teaching the best, and we go super deep, and with this great product actually doing that. So we also think skills are important.
I have taken your courses, by the way.
Oh, that's great.
So this space is very familiar to me.
Okay, thank you. So now, I think everyone believes skills over degrees, right? Skills greater than degrees. Why don't people actually trust in it? I think people still want that stamp in the end. एक तो ये की होता है, अगले 20 साल आपको क्या लगता है क्या होने वाला है?
So I think skills are important and so are degrees. Why are degrees important? Because every employer cannot interview you exhaustively so if I am, let's say, McKinsey, or let's say I'm Infosys, or let's say I'm LearnApp or Masters Union, and I need to recruit 200 people or 2,000 people.
Yeah.
I cannot make everyone do a test. I cannot check for skills in everyone myself.
So a good filter is what they need.
They need a good filtering mechanism, or they need a good signaling mechanism that tells me whether this person is
likely to be good.
Likely to be good.
Sure.
Right? Is he level A, level B, level C, level D? Right? And a college degree, and more than a degree, which college's degree it is, matters a lot more, right? So it's essentially a stamp that you have that shows you whether you're level A, level B, level C, level D.
So from their perspective, they're also looking through brands, right? I mean, that's how it is, right? How does HCL hire X thousand people? I mean, they have to have some filtering mechanism.
Right. So I think for them, looking at degrees is just an easy way, right? So that first step of filtering.
ये disrupt होगा क्या? Will degrees ever go away in the future, or will they transform into something else?
Degrees is actually credentialing.
Yeah.
Right. So let's talk about credentialing. I think credentialing will never go anywhere.
Sure.
Credentialing, so like for example, after I complete a LearnApp course, I take a test and you say you got an 80 on 10, right? And that's grade A. That's credentialing.
Correct.
Right. I can take that, go to Motilal Oswal and say, listen, I got an A in LearnApp.
Job चाहिए.
I need a job. And they're like, all right, level 1 is done because you got an A in LearnApp. But level 2, let's do an interview. Let's see whether you're a cultural fit. If that also happens, here's your job offer.
Super.
Right. So credentialing will not go anywhere. Now the thing is that right now when we say degree, what we mean is that this credentialing is taking place at a university or college that is accredited by the government.
And which you trust.
Which you trust because you trust the government.
Sure.
But what has happened is that over time the government has lost that trust because not all universities and colleges in the country, not all of their degrees have the same value.
Correct.
Right? So when you are a BBA from an unknown college, right? Now the employer is not trusting that degree.
Like we were talking in the morning, I guess, right? A lot of universities and institutions are started with for the wrong reasons.
Correct.
Because I have a building And because you really need, and is choti si jagah mein, there's no other institution, let me charge a couple of lakhs to actually give you. They don't really care about whether that I'm saying user because I'm tech, but whether that student metamorphosized into someone who can actually build something.
It's opportunistic.
It's opportunistic.
Yeah, it's not with the intent to teach and grow
And
people.
that's the real problem.
That is a real problem. I think that's why I feel like good people should come into education and start colleges. I know why you're laughing. But I think there's an oversupply of universities and colleges and institutions in India. Yeah. But there's a growth undersupply of universities, colleges that are started with the right
intentions. So here's the thing. There are tens of lakhs, probably a crore people who graduate and don't have a job, correct? Every year, right? BCom, you told me, is 50 lakh people enrolling every year. We know this for a fact, okay? Jitna bhi hum jod laga lein, we cannot build enough universities or institutions to cater to these people, to give them quality education.
Correct.
How will this, I mean, this is a real problem, right? Like a place like Netherlands will not have this issue because log hi nahi hai. यहाँ पे तो आबादी बढ़ती रहेगी, स्टेबल होना तो बहुत दूर की बात है. We might stabilize 10-20 years from now, but very tough. How will this ever be solved?
Yeah, I wish I had the answer to this question. We are all pursuing that answer.
Yeah,
right?
correct.
In education. But I think let's theorize what it might look like, right? We don't know the answer, but let's see what it might look like.
I have my take too, but yeah.
The way I feel it might pan out in the future is that there's a university. Right now, the largest university in India probably has, let's say, 40,000-50,000 students.
Okay.
Right? It's well-intentioned. They want to do a good job.
Sure.
Right? Now, can they get to 500,000 students?
Wow.
And eventually, can they get to 5 million students? Now, what are the mechanisms, technological or otherwise, that would allow a university, a good university, let's say IIT, let's say IIM, to enroll 100 times more students? Now, we know that if they just do online education, which they are already doing, by the way, the outcomes are still not that good because in online education, the problem is that of engagement, the problem is that of outcomes, the problem is that of student is not keeping the camera on, right? All of those things. So sometimes the teacher is also not keeping the camera on. So all of those problems. So as you said, there is a hybrid solution to this. Here's my take on it, that all the content that we currently hear from the teacher, that should all go into video. That should go into online mode, right? But as soon as I have accumulated that knowledge,
I should be able to do stuff.
I should be able to do something with it, right? I should either be able to problem solve, do a project, immerse myself in an engaging debate or argument with my classmates. All of that should happen offline. And all of that, because that is more peer-to-peer, it is not limited by the number of teachers you have in a college.
And it's also scientific also. I think your dendrites, your neurons will fire better if you're doing things together because all the senses are engaged, not just audio and video.
So if you go back to your college life, if I ask you what are your top 5 memories, none of them would be inside of a classroom. They'll be in the hostel. They'll be, at the bar or at the chai place, whatever. But they will not be in the classroom, right? And so what I'm saying is the universities should exist without classrooms and with a lot of group study rooms. And I think that would really help a university to go from 50,000 students to 500,000 students. Because now you're not limited by teachers. You're not limited by classrooms.
I think I also have this, in my limited understanding, I think this sequential event of graduating and then getting a job and then hopefully pleasing my boss to keep getting a promotion is flawed. I think universities will continue to operate the way they are. I think the way that credentialing happens will change. And I completely believe in this hybrid model. Actually, hybrid has been there from the start. People called it flipped classrooms in schools for decades now. No one's been able to execute it well. Where you're learning via this video, maybe doing some practice over there, and then actually performing activities, building something with your team. Now, I think what's going to happen, or what's likely going to happen, is that after you've got your entry-level job, you are going to study on the side over long periods of time. So lifelong learning over weekends and do it in these study centers, etc. as an adult and upgrade as you're growing. Because I think 40 years ago, the way industry changed and the way industry will change, say 20 years from now, 10 years from now, is going to be phenomenally different, right? Exponential, information moving, etc. So I think lifelong learning will become the norm versus कि अब मैं education कर लिया, खत्म हो गया यहाँ पे. And I think models like yours, right, where people have worked for 2 years and then they come and study, will become like normal, which sort of seems special right now. So I think that may also help in the scaling part.
there's another thing, right? Remember, like kindergarten. I think kindergarten education is so good.
Yeah, Montessori, they did and learned.
Yeah, even if you go to a government kindergarten school,
Yeah.
it's all learning by doing.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
The teacher never speaks.
And they're so happy.
They're so happy.
And the teacher's just the guide. She just has guardrails, and that's her job.
Right? And so I think that's what college education or high school education should be like.
What happened, man? I think the Britishers came. Nothing against the Britishers, but I guess we've heard this story before. I don't know if you have, but the Britishers said, okay, we're growing the empire, the Commonwealth, and we said, we need soldiers. We need to basically plant in this new territory we have, and we need to create a classroom. The uniform should be tight, tidy, kept well, should be able to write better, handwriting matters. And all those things that created a good army was inculcated into the school system that we still run and the world runs. And that's interesting, right? That we wanted to create robots because of that. Not that all schools are like this, but I guess a large majority of schools probably are like that. So I guess the initial objective of these schools were to create people who can become good officers. And then sort of nothing happened to change. So hopefully the newer generation can change this over the next few years. Anyway, let's come back to our earlier talk about money. And we live in a capitalist society, dude. And we aren't taught about money, right? How do you think future generations are going to think about money? I think now what's happened in the last few years that people are actually getting paid well in India. In many cases, software developers have comparable salaries to the US. And I think we're moving in that direction where I think salaries are going to get better over the next decade or so. Quality of life may improve in India, etc. How do you think the relationship of money will be with the next few generations? You have any thoughts on that?
So in my parents' generation, they didn't believe in investing. For them, the only instrument that you can use is a fixed deposit, right? And in India, interest rates are higher than the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Much, much higher, right? So that's why I think not enough people have thought about investing.
Sure.
Because you get good enough returns. And you wouldn't agree with this clearly, but in just sort of the bond market or in the just save your money, right?
Sure.
So I think now that the Indian stock market is growing so much faster, now people are going to start thinking about investing in more alternative instruments than just fixed deposits. So that's what I've seen in my family as well, that my grandparents were in the fixed deposit generation.
Correct.
My parents are sort of in this transition generation.
Yes.
Where they're very confused.
उनको पता है SBI और Wipro बहुत ऊपर गया था.
They're like, yeah, we want to do it, but still,
So bonds is the transitionary instrument in between.
I hope it. I mean, I still have not been able to get my parents to start investing, right? But we are born in this generation where we are like, obviously we should be investing. I mean, that's the stupidest thing if you're not doing, right?
Right.
And for the next generation, I wonder how it's going to be, whether everyone's going to become an angel investor or, there'll be more private markets of some sort and there'll be SPACs that our kids are investing in and telling us, hey, listen, what are you doing investing in Nifty? There is this new SPAC. So, it's anybody's guess and I think you're probably better.
No, I think what's interesting, if you look at entire fintech, क्या basically हो रहा है? थोड़े से लोग used to control most of the money. Right? Because it is relationship based. So investment banking would happen, IPOs would happen, and no one would get any pull in that. Now, everything they're trying to basically internet takes information and just disseminates it, right? And everyone can connect. So I think in the future, anyone can become an angel investor, like you said. Anyone can invest pre-IPO, which only millionaires right now actually get access to. All these things which only rich people had will become totally... But the problem with this is, the reason only rich people have access to this is because it's highly risky. Right, investing in a startup, we know so many founders, is super tough because businesses just change, right? And a lot of most startups don't survive. I think the value of death is 2 years or 3 years. They just die in this 2-3 year period. Everything looks good if you have a leading indicator like signups, but do you really have revenue and profit? Yeah. So I guess that's what's going to happen.
Well, also I think democratization of asset ownership, right? I don't know if I'm using it the right way.
Sure.
But in the US, I don't know if it's there in India, but when I was there, I remember I could purchase a share in a building in real estate, right? So it's like it's called property tech, prop tech.
REIT is what we have in India. Similar.
Yeah, REIT, but REIT is a public instrument, right?
Correct.
This was more like this is a private building.
Oh, interesting.
And I can go and purchase, 0.5% of that building.
Where do you make this purchase?
There's like an online platform I can go and I can purchase a share in 222 Broadway.
Wow.
Right. So it's like prop tech essentially. So that way, this building, which I think is going to do really well, I can invest in without being a millionaire.
Interesting.
So fractional ownership, I believe.
Got it.
Is that what they call it?
Interesting. Not caught up here at all.
So perhaps in the future, I feel like these sophisticated instruments, including startups, will become more accessible to, beyond just the millionaires.
Tell me this. So our user base is 22 to 35 ke beech mein, theek hai? They all have experience. They're working in a nice company usually, and they have extra money. Basically, they want to invest or trade, and that's why they're on the platform. I believe your students are also very similar. They're between the average age is 25. They're already working. Most of them are not starting their careers. In my experience, even the CAs, even the people working in investment banks, even the people who you expect to know about money, don't really know it, right? People who've done BCom and all MBAs, etc., and you expect them to have, because they've learned about commercial, right? They should have an understanding of this. But in my experience, none of them really even understood the basics of personal finance, investing, or any of these things. Right? Even something simple as investing in an index fund, that's it, right? And you don't need to do anything. Have you felt the same thing with your students as well? Like, what's the level
Absolutely. I mean, you assume that if someone is passed the CA exam,
he understands this.
They understand all of this stuff, right? But I think CA is something very different. Yeah. CA is about taxation and accounting and all of those things. And BCom in India, let's not get into that, but I don't think it teaches you money management in any way.
Yeah.
Or for that matter, even an MBA program at a reputable IIM, is it even teaching you about index funds? I don't think it's in the curriculum.
No.
So whatever you learn about personal finance is what you would learn on LearnApp or online or YouTube.
That's crazy.
And when you are sort of on your own without a structured curriculum in high school or college, then you're just going to know bits and pieces of things. And more often than not, that information is more dangerous than no information.
We went to this school nearby and we said, we'll just do 3 activities with kids, class 8, 9, 10. And we said, hum na market kya aata wo batayenge. Dude, they already knew it. And they had 2 questions. I have a loan app I want to download and they're going to give me a loan. Should I take it? This is a very scary question because these are scams. Second question was, which crypto should I invest in? So I think because of the internet, everyone wants to learn about money and how to invest. But the guys with the ad dollars are pushing shit on your face. And that can be super dangerous.
Yeah. I think I've also, like as a kid, I've made these mistakes. Not a kid, but like maybe as a young adult.
As a young adult.
It's very interesting. I think, you remember when we were in school, we used to have EVS?
Yes.
Environmental studies. It was, I was in school when, by the government, EVS was made like a compulsory subject. That it had to be the 5th subject that everyone has to take. And
you hated it?
No, I loved it because it was easy to score. Right? I think I got a 99 in that. The rest of my grades are much lower. But I think that's what is needed today. Can we make personal finance?
Just
like a compulsory subject in school,
Yeah.
maybe starting grade 4, grade 5, as soon as you understand math.
Yeah. What's your investing pattern? What do you invest in? Do you invest in, like, give me all the assets your personal money is in, even if it's a little bit?
Oh man. Very honestly, I'll speak. Okay. So as much as you'll hate me for saying this, I've never invested.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cut.
I think I've just never had the time.
Yeah.
And I know you don't need time because you can do an ETF, you can do. So I've learned about all of these things.
Can I get you started? Like,
absolutely. But I think I've always just invested in business, right? Whenever we have saved up anything, whenever we have had some treasury building up, even in Outgrow in the US, we have always just taken that money out
and started a business
with it.
Which is a form of investing because you own a business. It's a very concentrated bet.
Correct.
In investing parlance. It's not a diversified portfolio.
It's not diversified. It's a very bad portfolio in that sense. But I think...
high risk, high reward though. It's like buying an option.
But I think in a few years, once I have a family and I have kids and all of that, then I'll probably start thinking about that diversification.
Dude, can we talk about this after this? I'll just get you started like now.
Yeah. I really should. And no one should take inspiration from me on this point at all. But right now, I think that's what the need of the hour was.
So no bonds?
I have nothing.
No fixed deposit also. Fixed deposit to hoga.
I think something
just
that
to
like
store.
My nanny gifted me a fixed deposit.
Oh my God.
I think so that's a piece of paper that's lying in one of my files.
No crypto. Crypto तो बहुत दूर हो गया.
No, I have like 10,000, 20,000 rupees in like one of these.
I knew it.
Bitfinex.
I knew it.
Yeah, like those games
Oh,
I kept.
man.
Those punts I've taken.
And no stocks, not even one share.
No, so I really was inspired by the Kite app,
Yeah.
right? Because everyone was talking about how great a product it is.
Of course.
So I downloaded it to use the product so that
And
it
not
could
actually-
inform my product management at my company.
कि ऐसे
Not to
बनाओ.
actually invest. So I have, I think, 40,000 rupees invested in, I think, some Hero Motor Corp, just because I think that was like the first thing that showed up there.
Oh,
And I was like,
dude,
okay, let's
just to see how a transaction works.
Yeah, let's just see like how that interaction works, where you just swipe right and then it happens.
Curious to know now, do you have health and life insurance as well, Pratham?
Yeah, that I have.
Yeah.
That I have, yes. Life insurance, I don't know. I think we have a family policy or something. of
But
that
you're
sort.
covered.
Yeah, I think I'm covered.
You're
And health I have from the company.
Do you want to start investing this year? Give me honest answer. Is it more laziness or, because see, you'll have always some money to invest, right?
Yeah.
Is it more laziness or is just like, actually is it laziness?
I'd love to. And I think, yes, it's part laziness. It's also part, I think, just me, being motivated
To do it.
To do it, right? Because you invest to earn more money. And I feel that every day that I'm working and
You're actually-
building my business, I'm earning money.
Yeah.
Right? So 1 hour spent in a meeting that's going to take some strategic decision for the company versus 1 hour in investing,
It's probably better ROI.
it's probably better ROI.
Okay, one last question because then it leads up to something, okay? How much time do you think it takes or would it take if you did investing and if you did trading? Put a number of hours to it.
I mean, if I were to do an ETF, that is nothing. Or if I were to get a PMS, it's nothing.
Correct.
Right? It's just one decision you have to take
Yeah.
at one time and then it's done. Trading would probably, I mean, if you mean like intraday? types,
Whatever.
I think that would be a significant time investment. right?
Actually, it's all 10 minutes, including like there are ways to do it. So I'm saying, like, if you have the money, I'm sure you do, then you should invest and trade immediately. Maybe this is the one outcome we got from this
Alright,
podcast.
no.
I thought you'll be like, Prateek, I've invested in 7 different assets and it's rebalanced every year.
Okay, so let me put it this way, actually. I have invested in startups.
Tell me about those.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So I thought that, with Masters Union,
Yeah.
I had good insight into the education market, right? So when I moved back to India, I started seeing a lot of these startups that were raising funds. They were trying to do some interesting things. There were also a lot of startup schools or startup colleges that were
Right.
being founded.
Yeah.
So I really believed in them. And so in that sense,
क्योंकि intent है यहाँ पे.
intent hai, and I think we also had that conversation at one point.
Exactly,
Right?
yeah.
So there I have invested in startups, right? Because I really believed in the education outcomes that those
These
startups
are
would
angel
give.
checks.
These are angel checks. So maybe like 10 to 20 lakh rupee checks. These I have done.
In how many startups?
I have done maybe 5 or 6 across various.
So it's about 1 crore probably or near that.
near that much, yes. And we do have a family office.
वो 2 लाख की सैलरी में कैसे हो गया ये? अच्छा नहीं ठीक है हाँ
so
बता हाँ
I was
sorry.
coming- So that's my income in India. So with Outgrow, which we have been doing for 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, Outgrow's been around for 10 years. And there we make a little bit more money,
Interesting.
right? But that's all in
How
the US.
much money? If you're allowed to say.
It's a private company. It's fully held by us. There are no investors. So
No investors?
No, we bootstrapped it.
Oh.
And for good or for bad, we've not even done ESOPs. So the 100% of the company is between me and Randy, my business partner. And so he's never happy when I talk about how much we earn there. But essentially, it's not even a company. It's a firm. It's a limited
interesting.
liability partnership in the US.
It's just this page which says ये दो partner
ये
हैं,
दो
that's
partner
it.
हैं, and then we split in
And
the
you
middle.
partnered like New York Times and all these crazy other people.
Yeah.
to do-
So we never felt the need to build a company.
Okay, is it millions of dollars? Of course, right?
Yeah, of course.
Of course,
Yes,
right?
Yes.
ठीक है. When we go out, I'll ask you the margin and I'll calculate myself.
It's a SaaS company. You can do the gross margin
Oh.
calculation by yourself. But again, we have never taken money out of the system for our personal expenses. We still keep reinvesting in the company.
तो here's the question, ठीक है?
Or we invest in other startups.
आपका भी 2-3 exit हो गया, मान लो कुछ हो गया, windfall, you get 100 crores in your account.
Okay.
Okay, 100 crores cash after paying off whatever liabilities. Now, here's the situation. You own 4 t-shirts, you told me. You don't have a watch, we gave it to you in the studio. You wear the same, this thing. 1.5 lakhs में सब कुछ हो जाता है, you like traveling. Where will you spend that 100 crores? And yeah, where will you spend that 100 crores?
Since I am super passionate about education, I will invest all of. Okay, that's the wrong answer. Sorry. I think 50% of it and I'm just throwing this number out, not scientific calculation in any way,
hai.
I would keep for education and investing in education because I really think that's the only way the country can grow. That's
hai.
all. The rest 50%, I think I'll call you up and I'll take your advice and say, okay, maybe like X% in whatever, ETFs, X% in index fund, X% in startups, X% in mutual, X% in real estate, X%. So I'll do that portfolio.
Got it.
From that.
So you will not spend it on yourself. No private jet aspirations, yacht with interesting people to serve you.
I will.
None of that.
The thing is, I'd love to get a yacht. By the way,
And the crew.
But I don't think I'll buy one.
You will buy. Yeah.
Right? So
thank you so much for saying that.
Right. So, but I will probably rent one for maybe like a weekend.
Yeah.
And go with my family. Right. So that I would do. But I don't think that will cost more than a few tens of thousands.
I love this.
rupees.
Right. So just like Pratham, I've also met a lot of rich. Actually, rich is a bad word. Wealthy people. Right. Wealthy as in liquid 100 million cash. Right. We know them. And they're all the same, right? Like none of them say they want to spend on themselves. None of them have any fancy aspirations of building this crazy house. I mean, barring a few. But most of them, I guess, are builders. At least this generation. Why is that? That's very... Because I think when you watch Suits, right?
Yeah. It's all about gratification. Yeah. Right? What gives you gratification? In fact, I don't know if you've heard this theory, which is actually quite interesting.
Okay.
So, human beings are happy because of one of four, what are those things? Hormones, right? So, 4 hormones are
dopamine,
serotonin, oxytocin, and endorphins.
Got it.
Right? So, the first 25 years of your life, you run around a lot, right? You want to, like, as a kid, you're sort of always running around, and that gives you happiness.
That's where you
want to do
it.
sports, you want to do like build your body.
Right.
That's because all of those things release endorphins, and that gives you happiness. But what happens by the time you reach age 25 is your body becomes tolerant to endorphins.
So you need a new high.
You need a new high, which is given by dopamine, right? Which is where, and dopamine is released by earning money, by earning respect, by getting fame. And
graduation day,
or by
Naukri lag gayi.
Having a very hot girlfriend, right?
Correct.
All of those things.
Yeah, that's primary. Yeah, I think this.
So 25 to 50 years old, you get your high from dopamine, so you do all of these things.
Yeah.
But then by 50, your body becomes resistant to dopamine. It doesn't give you that happiness anymore.
Is that true?
Yeah. And so
by 50, your body becomes resistant to dopamine.
So that's why,
So that's why 50 plus don't use Instagram. That's the reason.
Perhaps, yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
then what?
And then thereafter, serotonin comes into, I think it's something else, I'm forgetting the right.
Either oxytocin or serotonin.
No, oxytocin is different. So oxytocin is released when you become a mother, right? Parenthood.
Or a father.
But it's more prominent in mothers, right? So that's why you get happiness by caring for your child. That happens between 25, 35. So that's when oxytocin is at a high, right? But there's another one, which is, I think, serotonin or something else. That is a high which you get by giving away your money.
Oh.
Gratitude, right? And so that gives you the same high that having a very hot girlfriend did in the past, or by being like a really good swimmer gave you when you were like in your teens.
Yeah. I think one good takeaway is that all the materialistic things you thought you would take, you need because you need money to buy that car or whatever, it just quickly becomes damn boring, right?
Your body will become resistant to it. It's all chemistry.
Yeah. Interesting. So, guys...
Don't buy rent.
Don't buy rent. So, yeah. Same with us. We don't own a home. Some of the furniture is rented. Swati will kill me for saying this. But it's true.
Same, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine. I should be ashamed of this.
No, I love it. I mean, I can change it every month.
Yeah, we didn't do that because we got lazy. But it's easy. They came and changed it and it was great.
I mean, like, so for example, my dad owns a car.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't. And the headache that comes with owning a car is a lot.
But do you lease a car right now?
I lease a car, yeah.
I
lease it by the day. So like whenever I need it, then I ask the cab operator to send it.
Oh, interesting.
Uber is a little bit hard.
Yeah, I think Uber just sucks right now. But
it's not that. But so for today, for example, I've chartered a Blue Smart for the day. So I have 8 hours of Blue Smart. That costs me, I think, $1,600 a day. For a month, that costs me, what, 40,000?
But you don't use it every day.
I don't use it every day, so maybe 20,000.
It's like a SaaS. It's like an AWS subscription. You pay if you use it.
Correct.
That's how you get around?
Yeah. My car's
You don't have a Ferrari?
No, I don't even have
you
a
didn't
Swift.
come in a Rolls? No. Dude, what are you doing, man?
But it's so much more convenient.
I agree, I
Because you have to make sure the driver eats, you have to make sure that he has a place to stay, you have to make sure that
छुट्टी पे जाना है,
छुट्टी पे चला गया, then you need a secondary driver.
Correct.
And then you have, what if the car breaks down? Then you have to buy like a new spare part. And like the companies are intelligent, right? The spare parts are priced like crazy.
Yeah.
And so then basically the ownership cost of owning a car is actually quite high.
This is interesting that everything comes down to mindset, right? Chemistry and mindset. Of how do you maybe retain wealth, make wealth, and what do you think about money? एक line में money है क्या? Influence leads to influence, or opposite, or money buys stuff?
Money is
What does it do?
Convenience.
Convenience. Lets you, or is freedom the right word?
Freedom is necessary, right?
Yeah.
But I think I get my freedom from 2 lakhs a month.
So you get to do what you want to do if you have
2 lakhs a month. That gives me the freedom. Beyond that, that freedom means nothing. Beyond that is just a luxury.
So right now, the dopamine is coming from building businesses.
In education.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I don't think I'd get the same dopamine from building a business in furniture or real estate.
Yeah. I guess everyone's built to do stuff that they like. This is nice, Pratham. I did not expect some of these answers, man.
You need to get to know me better.
How can we do this without a rapid fire? So I just saw these questions, by the way.
Okay.
I'm going to answer, okay? Fast होना चाहिए, one line हो सकता है, ठीक है? Ready?
Done. Let's do it.
कुछ अच्छा music बजना चाहिए अभी. What's your unfair advantage?
Empathy.
Interesting. What's the one thing as an aspiring millionaire should start doing right now? I'll ask this again.
Building a business. It's the easiest way to become a millionaire.
Got it. What's your favorite holiday destination?
Dehradun.
Really?
Yeah.
Outside of India?
Alaska.
Interesting. What's going to be your next holiday destination?
Darjeeling.
What's your most loved belonging purchase?
Can I say my cell phone?
Sure, okay. What's your biggest regret? Don't say you don't have regrets. Everyone has.
No. I really wish that I had learned guitar sooner.
But you don't know it now.
Now I've learned it, yes.
And what's next for you?
In terms of
What are you going to build after Masters Union, if there is an after?
another institute.
That was nice. I have something for you.
Oh, all right.
Ooh. Na. This is inspired from a show you might have seen.
Oh yeah, of course. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, dude.
Deeply appreciate it.
Enjoy.
I hope these are all healthy. Oh wow.
All of them healthy.
What's cookies wine? Interesting.
No.
Dude, I really think we should build a university together next.
We should do that. Dude, that was great. I really enjoyed this and learned a few stuff as well. So
Awesome.
look forward to doing this again.
Absolutely looking forward.